That decline generation by generation in voting is of a piece with declines in social capital, civic engagement, civic participation all across the board. Same thing, generation by generation. Take an age snapshot. There is that long-term decline. One of the messages that I have for young people when we work, at Citizen University, we work all around the United States with people of all ages, but when we're working particularly with young people, I have a very simple message, which is not so much an eat your vegetables message about the duty of voting, but more the idea that there is no such thing as not voting. That not voting is voting, right? Not voting is voting to hand your power over to somebody else and say, please take my power, take my vote, take my voice, and use it against me, right? And when I talk to young people and say, this is basically, not voting is the equivalent of wearing a big old placard that says, kick me. On the back, kick me, on the front, punch me, right? And that message actually has motivated a lot more young people than the kind of, scolding message that I think a lot of older generations will give. But I think there's another dimension to this as well, more globally here. A theme that's been running through all of our comments here has been about motivation to participate, but also invitation, right? I wrote this piece in The Atlantic a couple years ago, remembering that we used to have in the United States this culture of joyful, creative, raucous communal participation around voting in elections. Street theater, open-air debates, dueling parades, bonfires, toasting, right? Now, granted, the electorate then was one that would not include most of us. In fact, any of us, actually. But be that as it may, narrow as that electorate was, say, 200 years ago, there was that culture that voting was not just about voting. Voting was about how you participate in the life of a community, how you have a collective identity, right? And in this piece, what I said was basically, though television killed that culture and now our other screens have really killed it dead, it is in fact possible to revive that kind of culture, particularly if you start locally, right? And so at Citizen University, we launched a program called The Joy of Voting, in which now in 7 cities around the United States that run the gamut from Wichita to Miami to Philadelphia, Grand Forks, St. Paul, Charlotte, all these places, reddish, bluish places. In each place, we're inviting artists, musicians, activists, everyday neighbors, local residents, to come up and generate locally rooted ideas that are basically the 21st century equivalent to the sorts of stuff that used to happen a couple centuries ago. And then we're giving them micro funds to make them happen. And so you get these things in Miami, because Miami is a party town. One of the great ideas there was they had a great all-night dance party with the best, hottest DJ in town, and the only way you could get in was to show that you'd registered to vote, right? In Wichita, in the North End, they got young people, potential voters of color, to participate in a big old graffiti art and street art fair that was all about, again, registration and participation, right? In different towns, different ways that are kind of tailored to the culture of that place. But you first have to invite, right? And to invite people not just to register, but invite people, the substitute for eat your vegetables has to be join the party, right? Join the club. Make this a thing that you want to be part of, not even so much because you should or because, the other party's going to win or because your friend did it, but because there's something purposeful and joyful there, right? And we found that that's been, in these local elections, in Wichita, in Philadelphia, been moving the dial, right? In turnout and registration.